We asked a series of teens about their own experience with sex education and how it affected their life. Did your parents give you the sex talk?
No, they didn't, but in 5th grade, we, since the teachers, they basically knew like Texas didn't really teach it and they didn't have to teach it in schools. So the teachers at my school, they split the boys and girls up into 2 groups and basically taught us about like pads and tampons, and like that was basically it.
My mom really didn't give me a straight-on sex talk, but whenever I had questions, she would be very open and honest, and she would answer them.
My mom just didn't hide anything from me. She told me what everything was when I had questions. She explained things. Well, we used to watch like movies together, and like when the sex scene comes up and they cover your eyes. My mom isn't that type of parent.
My mom never actually had a talk with me about like safe sex or what sex really was, so I kind of had to figure it out on my own through friends and stuff and just kind of like TV. And I really wish that kind of wasn't how I grew up.
My mom gave me the sex talk when I was like maybe 7, and I asked her how babies were made, and she gave me a whole story about her and my dad and how me and my brother were both surprises.
Was it useful to you?
Before, I was very scared of sex, and I had very anti-feminist thoughts about like if you had sex constantly that made you a bad person or easy and things like that, and I didn't really understand the concept of sex.
I know how babies are made now, but she didn't really expand on what happens when you have sex and stuff. It wasn't really that useful.
It kind of made me unaware of what risks sex could bring, like STDs and chlamydia, etc. So I didn't really know about those because I never knew that they were really a thing. It kind of put me at a disadvantage because I didn't really know the bad side of sex.
Why is it important for parents to have the sex talk with their kids?
I think it's important for parents to have the sex talk with their kids because kids are going to be having sex whether you have that talk with them or not, and shielding them from it and trying to censor their minds in that way is only going to make them more curious. Curiosity is to explore through it, and if we're not taught by our parents exactly what it is and exactly like what can happen to it, like we're not going to take exploring as seriously as we might want to.
So other teens I feel like are at more of an advantage than I am because my family is religious, so I had that talk with my mom, and that was the end of what sex was for me. She didn't tell me how to say no. She didn't tell me about gay sex. She didn't really tell me anything else. So all of my friends had all this knowledge about like, how do you not have sex and still be like a happy teenager?
Did you receive sex education at school?
I did, but it was very heteronormative. It was more just biologically male, biologically female, and as somebody who's trans, a transgender man, it didn't really pertain to me.
The people who came and taught us it's helped me learn things like abstinence and consent.
I didn't really know what, sex was at that age, and so when they brought it up, I was like, what? Like, it got really awkward. I guess educating me at that time was smart.
Well, it taught me about consent in depth. Like, they taught me about body language and how to put on a condom.
I didn't have sex ed. That put me at a disadvantage.
I received sex education in my 8th grade year, I think. Yeah. It definitely helped me a lot because at the time I was talking to a guy in his 20s, and I kind of thought I was like really mature and cool and everything like that, and I was like, this is like such a cool thing, like I'm so like mature, this like older guy wants to talk to me and stuff. And one of like the lessons that we had in our sex education course was how talking to overage people when you're a minor, especially a minor of like 8th grade, can only lead to like really one thing. There's not really romance or healthy relationships.
Do you think all students should have access to sex ed in schools? And if so, why?
Yes, I do, because I've seen many people who have not had like the sex talk, and they haven't had safe sex, or like they're pregnant at like 16.
Yes, because like I said earlier, they're gonna have sex at one point. They're gonna experience a sexual occasion.
Yes, because that puts students in safer situations. gives them more knowledge about their bodies and how to say no and how to say yes and how to be adults.
Depends on the relationship between the child and the parent. Like, my mom never hesitated to give me the talk at any point. And I feel like some parents just don't want their kid to grow up, and I feel like that causes them to be unsafe in the future. It's better to be safe than sorry.
Do you have any final thoughts?
I feel like I was put at an advantage learning about this stuff early, and it's unfortunate for the other ones because they have to learn things on their own.
If parents don't have the sex talk, then their kids go out and they do dangerous stuff all the time because they don't know what's right and what's safe. So they'll go out and they'll have unsafe sex, and then you have a kid or you have one of your kids that has an STD.
It's your job as a parent to educate your child so they can grow up aware and not clueless of the risks.
Our voices as teens matter in a world full of adults making the rules that directly affect our future. How are you going to use your voice?